What's going on, guys? West Coast Florida Fishing here, back with another video, and today we're going to be turning a Stradic into a Stella. Now wait, don't go anywhere, because I know you want to hear the big difference. And this is after. Do you want to learn how to do that? Stay tuned. One right here in the handle. We have one underneath the spool as a spool support. We have one in the rotor retaining nut. We have one in the lower worm gear bushing to bearing. We have one in the upper worm gear and one in the oscillation paw that is going to be swapped over to all Stella bearing counterparts. This is not for the faint of heart. This is going to be a very, very tough upgrade. Just be very, 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 very careful with that anti-reverse, because if not, you will be putting it back together. The first thing we're going to do here is take off the spool. Yes, I did already pre-loosen it. And I'm actually going to go ahead, and this is going to be a full teardown video as well. So it's going to be a long video, so you guys go ahead and start buckling in. So next thing I'm going to do is actually move these out of the way real quick. Now I'm going to take off all these shims to get to our screw that's holding that spool support in. Alright, now we can gain access to that screw. I just left that other one on. You just take your 0.9 T-head that we picked up off of Amazon, and we're going to go ahead and unscrew that retaining screw. And pop that boy off. We're just going to be upgrading as we go down into the reel. So first upgrade is right here. And this is your spool support, so we just take that off right there. There's that little retaining clip. Make sure you don't lose that. Set that clip down. This is the first bushing we're going to be swapping. Now the swap for this one is going to be the RD13274. It's going to be the exact same size. And if you've done your homework, this is actually the exact same bearing that they use in the non-handle side in the Stradic. So we're going to go ahead and turn around and replace it. Put the clip back on, just like that, and set it down into the support system, and we're going to just put that up there because we're not installing it back on, because we have to go further into this reel. So the next thing you're going to need is going to be a little kit like this. This is a multi-kit, and it comes with a ton of different drill bit heads and sizes for the T-Torque stars, and it comes with flathead and Phillips. So this is very, very helpful. We'll just take this, stick it over there. So the next thing we're going to be doing is go ahead and removing this little part of the spool support. And as you can see, it takes two Phillips screws right there. So take our multi-tool, and we're going to go ahead and unscrew that, and unscrew that, and then this whole thing should lift up, and that's going to be everything like that. Don't lose these screws. Alright, so what we have now is going to be a rotor seal and the rotor retaining nut. That'll just pry right off there. And then you're going to need some sort of adjustable pliers or a wrench or something like that. I just have my vice grips, so we're going to be super careful so that we don't actually imprint that brass too much, because it is pretty soft metal. And just break that seal for us. Alright, we'll set those pliers aside. And this whole thing should just lift up, like so. Alright, this is actually going to be the next upgrade. So we're going to take off this plate here. You can see it just pops right off, and there's actually a little seal. Do not lose that. Lay that right there. And that brass little bushing is actually going to be swapped out for a bearing. Again, I'm just going to take a tool just to push it on out. And there it is. There's the brass bushing right there. It actually has that seal, but we're going to drop the seal on it. And that O-ring is just to make it fit a little bit better. But the replacement for this guy is going to be part number RD14396. So every single one of these parts that I have in my hand and that I'm using for this video will be linked in the description below. So if you guys are having any sort of trouble or difficulty of just finding anything on it, I have everything in the description for you already, so no need to stress about that anymore. So what I'm going to do now is just put that little O-ring that was flopped off, and we're just going to fit it right back on there on the bearing now. We have it fit just like that. We're going to take the rotor retaining nut, and we're actually just going to slide the bearing right in. It's that simple. That little seal just sits right on top. So that's number 2 done. So we already have the 2, which is great. So we're going to put that up here. I'm going to take this replacement and stick it back up with the bushing. We're getting close. I'm getting nervous. All right, so we're going to take this rotor off, just like that. Set this way aside so we don't even have to touch that. Before we go any further, number 1, gotta take off this handle, because if you remove the anti-reverse, you won't be able to actually remove the handle. So just back that out nice and slow. And what we're actually going to do first is going to be the handle bushing to bearing. So this is a very, very easy one. We do it in almost all the upgrades just because it's so easy and it makes such a big difference. So you just take a pick tool or something small, pull it out through the inside. We're left with a Phillips, so take our multi-tool. I'll try to find a link for this multi-tool and put it down in the description below because it is super, super helpful for almost all the projects I do. I mean, reels or not, it works well. So we're just gonna slide right up. That's that bushing. We can just leave all of this as is, which is great. Just set that down there. And that's the bushing we're going to be replacing. So you can see it actually has that shim on it. So make sure not to lose that shim. Good. And now we're going to reapply that shim back in the position that it was. And the bearing going to be used for this upgrade is going to be RD13269. This is the handle bearing. Just grab that real quick. Alright, so now what we're going to do is just simply slide it right on. Just like that. I'm going to take this handle here, slide it right on there. And it popped in. And now we're just going to take our screwdriver and screw that screw right back on in. Like I said, this is one of the easiest upgrades you can do, and it is super, super efficient at making your knob much, much smoother. So there it is right there. That is done as well. So we have 3 now done. I'm going to set this up over here. All right. This is the tricky part. So this right here is the top retaining plate for the anti-reverse. This is part of the sealing system. It actually creates a labyrinth seal that I talk about a lot when I'm actually selling this reel at my store. But water has to go in, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, and then in. So it's a very, very good sealing system that they created just for the Stella and then implemented into the Stradic. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and remove this rotor brake. It should just come right up. There we go. And avoid touching this as much as possible just because it does have a water wicking substance on it that just doesn't allow water to sit. It just beads up and rolls off. All right, so these are the 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. Now, when I take this off, I'm actually going to be doing it upside down. If this gets out of frame, I'm sorry, but I'm not risking wanting to put that back together. So again, I'm going to take my Phillips here, and just bear with me while I focus. All right, so I have the screws off. I'm going to carefully remove the anti-reverse. Okay. Mission successful so far. I'm going to very carefully set that down, and we're not going to touch that the entire time. Like I said, I'm not joking. That needs to be done so carefully. You can see that plate actually from the point of view right now. That little silver plate is just pressed in there. If that comes up, everything underneath will spring out. There's like, I think 8 little tiny springs smaller than this, and they just jump right out of there. So cool. Take a deep breath. We did the hardest part. Just kidding. Hardest part's gonna be putting it back on. We won't get there. All right. So now going to be take off this little pinion plate bearing here. This is just a retaining plate to hold on to the pinion. Don't lose that. Pinion bearing, just to keep it from wanting to shift up as we're reeling and putting it under load. So just unscrew that. Ooh, I was pretty nervous about that anti-reverse, but we're only halfway there. We gotta still put it back on. All right. So that is off, and you can see this plate actually just wants to pop right off by itself. So there's that plate. Just set it aside. We know exactly what it's for. All right, so now we have the pinion gear right here that was resting on top of, and we have that pinion bearing down there. But we're gonna move on to taking the reel, actually the side plates apart, and getting into the internals. So we're gonna need some Phillips and the T-torque. So we're gonna start with the Phillips since it's already on there. Another thing I'll mention is just to take off this O-ring, and that just lets the anti-reverse seat onto the reel properly. And next we're just going to continue with these screws. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and start removing all these screws over here to get into the internal of the reel. So that's going to be a T5. We'll put that over near the spool. Put it in frame for you guys. That just comes off. Like I said, this multi-kit is super helpful. Alright. What I like to do is I'll actually orient the screws that I take out with the orientation of the reel. So actually, we'll do that right now. So this is going to be the top one up here. So that's going to be over there. This side over here on the other side, right there, is going to be right there. And this one that we just took out is going to be below that on this side. And then we have a Phillips over here, and that's it. So I'm going to switch back over to our Phillips bit. Great thing about it is I can do it one hand, so I don't have to let go of anything. That is a great thing. All right, so go ahead and remove that screw. All right, and put it bottom right. And that is it. That is super good. organizationally speaking, because now we can just put everything back to the way it was, super quick and super fast. So now the only thing we have left is to go through. We can pull out this pinion gear, and it's got your pinion bearing here. If your bearing came out with your pinion gear, go ahead and just hold on to it. Set that off to a side where it's not going to be lost anywhere. And now we have our shaft free flowing in there. So what we're going to do now is just pull apart these two side plates. Alright, so we got it to start separating. So then we just pull apart nice and easy. And there we go. That is the internals of the Stradic FL. Super cool, super blacked out on this side. I really like that. So let's just go ahead and set this side down because we don't need to do absolutely anything with it. So we'll set that up over there. Alright, here comes the fun parts. So now we have to get to this paw right here, and this is your main shaft going onto your oscillation paw that goes onto your worm. And the worm gear is your oscillation system. So to do that, we've got to pull out this pin out from the top. So go ahead and grab your trusty tweezers and just grab on and push up. And you can see it just dislodges that easy. And then once it gets that far, I'll just pull out the rest of the way. And that removes your shaft completely from being locked up. So we'll set that down right there just to show you guys everything that's going on in here. Pretty cool. So that's your lower pinion bearing right there. That is your non-handle side bearing over there. That is your worm gear right here, and that's the bushing that we're going to replace to a bearing. And there's another bushing way up there. You can actually start to see that little white piece right there. We're going to be replacing that and to a bearing as well. So for now, we're just going to set this aside. We're going to work on this right here. So this is your main shaft. Now I am taking off all the lubrication practically in this reel, so I will be reapplying more Shimano grease into this reel. So we have that. That's what we need to get to. So that's what controls the paw. It spins back and forth, making a smoother experience after we replace it. You can actually see that there might be a little bit of thread locker. So just be careful not to strip these out because these are super, super important. All right. So just again, be very careful. If you start stripping something out, just skip it. Don't continue to force it. So I got it in there. I'm going to add a lot of pressure on it. And I broke it. Broke that seal. I said that a lot. I hope you guys know I broke the seal is what I'm saying. Yeah, it does look like there's thread locker on there. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. The same thing. Super, super easy. Just upgrade down here. I mean, once you get down here, it's easy to start replacing stuff, in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off. That is the bushing that we want to replace. So should be able to, yep, just push out on that. And it should just pull out like that. Sweet. So that is the oscillation paw right there. So next thing we're going to be doing is just pulling this all apart here. You just have your bushing right there. You can see how lubricated this is. We're going to make sure we reapply that lubrication on there. So pull out the pin from this side, set that down right there. We can pull off this gasket here. So the bearing that we're going to be using to replace it is going to be this bearing right here, and this is going to be an RD 11578. So just take that out. And you can see it sits exactly where this bottom one is. So we'll have that there. Alright, so I got this O-ring off of the bushing there, and now we're going to start setting up the oscillation paw. So we're going to take our bearing and slide it on top of the shaft there and set it back down. Now you're going to take out your next piece, which is the bushing side of that oscillating gear. You can see it's got that rib. Alright, never trust a camera on a tripod. That's number one rule there. But anyways, we'll get back to this. So go ahead and take this there and whoop, slippery. Alright. Now we're going to slide that bushing right on top. And you can see it's an absolute perfect fit. So now I'm going to take our shaft and we're going to be taking that dog hair off. I'm going to be removing the entire oscillation paw. I'm sorry, we're going to be installing the entire oscillation paw. Right in, just like that. As you can see, it sits nice and perfect. Everything's all good. I'm going to go ahead and screw the plate back on. So we take the plate here, just like that. Grab our screwdriver. Going to install it now. Alright. One done. And the other done. And that is it for this one. You can see the oscillator still works. So that one is all set. Oh, couldn't fix that. I'm going to take this bushing and set it aside with our other bushings. So now what we're going to be doing is taking out this worm gear and these idle gears up here and going to be replacing the bushing down here and the bushing up there. So let's go ahead and unscrew this retaining plate back here. Alright, that screw is done. Pick it off like that. And grab our tweezers. Pull that off. And now what we're going to be doing is just pulling the entire worm gear out. That idle gear just falls right off. We got a few shims there. We got one of the bushings. Idle gear. Worm gear. That's your idle right there. Set that down. And that is another bushing that we're going to be swapping to a bearing. So if I had a pick tool, that would be ideal for sure. But I'm just going to use this tiny little screwdriver and try to see if I can wiggle it out. Just like that. Set this down. Take that off. Alright. Alright, so that bottom bushing is going to be RD11018. And this is the Stella counterpart. So we're going to be taking that out. Dropping that side by side just to see you guys it's the exact same. And then the upper is again going to be RD11578. So go ahead and grab that out of here for us. Just like that. Alright, so now we're going to be putting the worm gear back together. So I'll just take this bearing here and I'm going to drop it down in that little hole. Just take it and just presses right in just like that. Super easy. So now we're going to go ahead and get our idle gear. Get the idle gear and drop it back up in there. And now I'll take the worm gear, put it back through the bottom, line it up. There we go. Oh, that was all out of focus. Cool. I lined it all up in there so it's sitting right in. There's a little slot that it lines up to on that idle gear. So now we have the normal upgrade down here. So we're just going to go ahead and don't forget these shims. We're going to put this gear into position here. And drop the shim. And now we're going to take our ball bearing and drop it down as well. Just like that. Press down. Make sure it's seated well, which it did. And now we're just going to ladle plate back across. Completely reinstall this. Just like that. And we're going to take this screw head. I did tell you guys this would be a long video, right? Alright, just making sure. Alright, so I got the screw here. Drop it right in. Yep, everything is all into place. So that's perfect there. Just tighten it up just a wee bit more. There we go. Okay. So now we have that whole side completely done with the two bearings on the oscillation, which is really, really nice. That should show quite a large upgrade as far as refinement goes. So we're going to take these bushings and drop them up over near the reel. Alright, and we had a straggler bushing from the handle sitting over there, so we got all that. So, we've done all of these swaps to bearings. It's now time to put everything back together. So, we're just going to work backwards now. So we're going to be taking this and actually re-greasing the product. And we got that. And just lather. A little bit goes a long way with this grease. Put it over that. Over on that side. Alright. So now with this, we're going to be inserting it through. Laying it on the paw oscillation. And got to reinstall that pin. We'll take that pin now. Here we go. And it'll just slide all the way in and pop in. Just like that. We'll take and wipe our hands off again. Alright, so now we're going to drop the pinion back on. And it'll actually just seat right inside there. Just like that. And you can see it working. Moving that oscillation. Wow, it already feels good in my hand, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so let's just continue to get this thing rolling. So we got that, and where we're at now is going to be putting the reel actually back together. Of course, but we're doing it this way on the camera for you guys. So alright, so I just bent this automatic trip here just a tiny bit. That's what bend more of a just shimmy out of the way a little bit, and everything's seated back up as expected. So now what we're going to be doing is putting in all of these screws over here. So, and we're going to go this one first. Should be down here. And take the correct bit here. That screw was a T8 over there. Then going ahead and going to do the bottom one down here. Alright, so I got the two main ones. Now we're going to go ahead and do this top one up here. Alright, and that one's done. Tighten up that one. That one's good. Flip it over and we got this last one up top still. Alright. So all those 4 main body screws are back on. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that one down. Do not forget to tighten these down all the way. If you have any sort of play and a gap in between this side plate and the main body, your gears will slip and you will be wondering what the heck is going on. So just want to let you guys know that real quick. Alright, so next what we're going to do is reinstall this rash guard. Take your rash guard here, line it up very carefully. Need that tiny T5. There we go. Oop. Don't worry, it's just the bearing going on the pinion that secures the main shaft and the pinion in place. So before anything else happens, just slide this on right here. Alright. Just took a little bit of extra effort just to keep that one straight as we were putting it back in. I guess I'll show you what I mean. Get it lined up right. And it just goes right in. And we'll put that last one. All right. So that plate has been put back on. Now the next thing to do before anything else is going to be putting this little rubber gasket right there. It's going to just slide right on right into the slot that's pre-made for it. Alright, as you can see, it's on there pretty good. Should stay pretty well now. Alright. The fun part, right? Right? Wrong. Very, very wrong. Okay, well, let's try to do this without messing everything up. First things first, upside down. This is gonna suck if I don't do it right. Okay. So upside down. There's 6 bearings in there, by the way. I said 8 springs, but there's actually only 6. Okay. Alright, so the O-ring came off, and again, it wasn't aligned. Like I said, the reason why I'm not just saying, I'll just twist it on there and try to push that back on. It is totally worth it. Take the extra 2 or 3 minutes here and do this right than spending 45 minutes putting that back together. I 100% agree with that. So again, just bear with me. I'm getting it to try to work in right. All right, we got it. All right, that was tough. That was very, very tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, not a beginner's upgrade. If you're very, very advanced, I guess is the only word that I can really think of. If you're very advanced with these DIY projects, if you don't make a lot of mistakes, I guess, you got a really steady hand, that'll definitely help. Prior experience, taking down old Stradics, if you've ever done that before, that helps. If you've ever put back anti-reverses after you've exploded them, then you'll be fine. If you explode it, you just put it back together. I try not to explode them, so I don't have a lot of experience in getting those back. So we have the hardest part, which is having it installed. That was the hardest part for sure. The second hardest part now is going to be the getting that clutch sleeve back in without popping them all out from the inside, which shouldn't happen if we have everything seated correctly. So we're just gonna fare with that, and what I'll do is, instead of picking it up with my greasy fingers, I'll wipe my fingers off. I'll grab the anti-reverse clutch sleeve. It's on the floor. Hold on. All right, damn thing's slippery. Okay, so fingers are all cleaned off now. This is just going to get it in frame, slide it over, just like that, and just got to be super careful again. I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's wanting to see. Oh, okay. Good Lord. When I tell you that I do not want to be putting that thing back together, I am serious. I do not want to be putting that thing back together. And if I'm saying that, you do not want to be doing it either. So like I said, super advanced. If you can get it, great. If not, it's not my fault you broke your reel. Little disclaimer. I'll put it in the beginning of the video on the little bottom. So everyone that says, oh, you broke my reel. Nope, that was all you, buddy. This is at everyone's risk to do that, and you do not want to be putting that back together, I promise. Okay, enough rambling about that. We'll continue to go forward with this. So we're going to need that labyrinth system plate here. Just drop that bad boy on in, just like that. Seat's all up next to it. We'll come over with the friction ring here and just slide that right on, which is perfect, just like that. And then what we have going on next is going to be the rotor. So stick that right up on in there. There we go. And all right, you stick your rotor on, just as so. The next thing we're going to be doing is installing our upgraded rotor shaft right here. Oh. All right, so we'll just take our bearing with the little gasket seal on it, put it on, drop it on down, drop this on down with it, just like that, and place everything right, and in it seats. Just like that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do here is going to be putting on our seal. Just like that. The next thing we're going to be doing is putting on the plate here. And now the only thing we have to do is tighten it up a little bit. Since I have these bog things, I'm just going to do it off camera just for a sec. Alright, just tightened a little bit, and we're just going to see if this slides on and fits right, because it's actually kind of like a ratchet of sorts. Put it on there. Yep, so it's lined up perfect. If not, it won't line up right. But after that being lined up, we're just going to go ahead and screw that in. And there you are with that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be doing is reassembling the spool support assembly. So you take your washer here. Just pull that up for you guys. Then take your spool support system. Carefully thread that thing on there. And make sure that when you send it down, that little clip right there that you're seeing the shine of sits right in that groove that you can see right there. So I'm going to face it directly toward us. And now I'm going to position this to go down. You can see it's a little bit off-centered. So we'll just rotate that just a little. Send it down. And it should seat right in there. I can feel it catch. Alright. Now we're going to screw back in the retaining screw. Doing this with one hand is not the easiest. Alright. Alright. Now we will add our washers. Drop them on down and set them just like that. And that is it. We will add the spool back on for the aesthetic. And that is it. As you can see, it's fully functioning. And it looks absolutely stunning. It's completely upgraded now. There's nothing else we can do at all to this reel whatsoever. So that is the Stradic upgrading video from an FL to a Stella. And here's the used 2500 series high gear Stradic. And when I say used, and lightly used, just like the other one. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the mic on there. Alright. And here we go. So you can clearly hear a very large difference between the two. That compared to So you can obviously hear a huge difference between the two. Let's jump over to the outro. Alright guys, I really hope you liked that video. It took a very long time to make. I messed up once or twice in there. You guys saw it, saw the camera fall. It was a big old hodgepodge, but if you did enjoy, please smash that thumbs up button. And still, there's like 93% of you guys that aren't subscribed and are watching my videos. What are you doing? Hit the subscribe button down there and go ahead and hit that post notifications and turn it on, just so that you never miss my videos. If you guys made it this far, then obviously you liked the video. Go ahead and check out some of my other videos that are gonna be popping up here on the screen in just a few seconds. I actually did a simpler upgrade on my Stradic FL, my CI4, my Stradic FK. I actually have a Spheros upgrade coming very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for all that, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next episode.